Welcome to the Aeon Practice Education Series in partnership with Formica, delivering concise and impactful insights for aesthetic and specialty medical practices. Your host, Chris Solhonik.
Today, we have a very special guest, Facundo Formica, CEO of Centralized. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you, Chris. Very excited to be here.
I've been able to see you recently at a few shows. We've been talking a little bit about this. I'm super excited to make this episode happen. I was telling you in the prep that I'm excited to do them all and I get to do them all, but I don't often get to work on an episode where I am interested in what the person's doing, but I don't know them as well as I'd like to. So this is going to be a great journey for me as well.
That's right, and we did get to meet in the last few shows, and it's great to have exchanged some of those thoughts that I think are going to make up for a great podcast today.
I'm looking forward to it. Well, do me a favor, tell our listeners a little bit about yourself. How'd you get started? How'd you end up where you are, and where do you see yourself going?
Sure. I mean, my journey has always been in the intersection of technology and human connection. Really, how does technology help users achieve their goals? So I started out by building systems that address and solve complex problems, but that drove me to creating solutions that make people's life easier. And today, as the CEO of Centralized, I get to apply that passion to an industry that deeply matters, medical aesthetics, right? And we serve private practices that where time, trust, and relationships are everything. It's extremely important to connect with patients more than in many other areas of medicine, because these are elective procedures where people are possibly risking their good health, trading it for an aesthetic procedure that is totally elective. Therefore, trust is a paramount component of it. So it's exciting to work with plastic surgeons and medical aesthetic professionals to find what is that technology that is going to help them do what they love, which is deliver amazing patient care and patient results.
Sure. You said something interesting in there that I think, being in the aesthetic space for as long as I have and yourself, we all sort of understand that you have a perfectly healthy patient, right? That's choosing to go under and then, take risks at that point for an aesthetic outcome. Say more about that. I think that's very interesting.
Yeah, and that is why we know that we are a new breed of systems at Centralized, but it was because of that reason. The patient is the consumer, first of all, so they are making the decision, and they are evaluating several physicians to make sure that they find one that they connect with. They develop that relationship to the point that they're going to trust them with their, as you said, their perfect health in order to achieve aesthetic results. So we felt from the get-go that any tools and workflow improvements that we can do that allow the provider, the doctor, the patient care coordinator, or the esthetician to actually develop that relationship with the patient as early as possible.
I appreciate you diving into that a little bit. It's not where I thought we would go, but that's a very interesting subject to me. I have enough history with that and working with all the doctors that I've worked with. Obviously, some over the years have had complications in those areas and had to really think about what they're doing and why they're doing it. So for part of your mission, I guess, for lack of a better word, to help enhance that process and establish trust, I think it's not something that often gets talked about, and I appreciate us starting the show like that. Thank you. Great. So the format of the show, I asked 3 questions. I'm going to ask these 3 questions. We're going to try to get in and out of the show in like 30 minutes. What I want to accomplish is I want listeners to be able to either watch the show or listen to the podcast and be able to take home actionable information and apply it to their practice in ways that might change what they're doing or make what they're doing a little bit easier. So I'm going to dive in. I'm going to ask the questions, and we'll explore this stuff together. Ready?
Awesome.
All
Let's
right.
go.
Simplast is often described as the first complete mobile-first medical software designed by plastic surgeons. What sets it apart from other solutions on the market today?
Chris, that's a great question, and I appreciate that. At Simplest, we were built from the inside out, and that it's a concept that we'll get back to it. But our founding plastic surgeons weren't just advisors; really, they were architecting of the vision, and it's based on what they needed. I was not the one that thought the system needs to enhance the patient and surgeon relationship. It was the surgeons. That's what they do day in and day out, and they understand the value of that. With that, what they needed, it was a system that actually works for them in real life and also in modern life, based on practices employed 20, 30 years ago. So the system was not designed by software engineers, although that is my background, but it was designed in order to rethink how healthcare should work.
Okay.
So the mobile first and patient centric, and also, as we call it, retail healthcare DNA shaped everything that we have done since day one. The patient is at the center of the design of all the different workflows and tools that we created at Simplest. So what is it that sets us apart? I would start with seamless workflows, because it's all encompassing, right? We have all the tools under one umbrella or under one platform. You don't have to be breaking your workflow by leaving this one system, going to another one, get the data, come back, fill out, import something. Everything is very smooth. It's thought from the DNA, right? From the very core. It was designed as a system that will support mobile patients and mobile practitioners or physicians, because the patient has become mobile and digital in the last 10 years. Again, I'm equating patient to client, just like a bank client or Starbucks client. Like, who doesn't place their coffee order on the app more often than at the window in this day and age? So we wanted to bring the patient closer to the practice by providing the right mobile tools. So that seamless workflow is critical. And then from that, it goes into ensuring that we go all the way from the beginning to the end. And we call it attract to delight. So as early as getting the patient involved when they fill out a form, or they message the practice via social media, however it is that they get in touch with the practice, we pick up the flow right there, and we take it all the way to the delight stage. What does that mean is that we do the lead capture, the CRM, which really is marketing and sales automation for bottom of the pipeline type of work, and including to bring patients back for new services or just a new session of the same service. But then adding AI-driven consultations and wellness programs, memberships and treatment plans, all those are concepts that are foreign to regular medical practices, but that they are a must for an aesthetic practice. And especially for those plastic surgeons, that it used to be that a plastic surgeon would see a patient every 10, 15 years. Now they're trying to see them several times a year. It could be for different surgical procedures, or it might be just to upkeep and keep protect the investment that the patient has done with a facelift or with the mommy makeover, and all those are programs, aesthetic programs that can be put together by a successful plastic surgery practice. And our team has thought of all those areas of where the system will help the provider do what they do best, that is focus on the outcomes. And the last one is the partnership mentality. And you touched a little bit on the opening. We consider partnerships, starting with the Simplest client partnership. We see that as a partnership. We don't see it as a vendor-vendee. And we have created an amazing team with client success managers that are assigned to every single client, that truly focus on their title, client success manager. They're going to help them via reporting and advice and the quarterly business reports that we do for our clients to ensure that they run a successful medical aesthetics practice.
Ye-
And that partnership, it also extends to true industry partners. How do we serve the client better? It's not about designing, in our case, that we design a fairly comprehensive platform. Is not about doing everything for everybody. It's all about creating the best in each of those touch points. But sometimes there are companies that come out that are very vertically focused on one aspect of the patient journey, and they do it very well. We love to partner with companies like that, because if that delivers a better patient experience and therefore growth opportunities for our clients, it's a perfect combination. And we saw that at the meet, where we saw each other a few weeks or a month ago, where the Aesthetic Society puts a great showroom and a good conference, but we saw many different opportunities to partner with companies, and companies deliver services like your own company and you yourself as a great consultant to the
I
industry.
appreciate that. You said something. Well, all of what you talked about, you've been talking heavily about sort of aesthetic practices, but the phrases used were facelift and mommy makeover. But then you talked about sort of this concept of a reoccurring customer, or a patient coming back for over and over, seeing the surgeon more often. And then I heard you slide in there memberships, right? So I'm taking all this back to we're not just talking about sort of your traditional breast and body work or facial plastic surgery, right? We're talking about also segueing people into sort of med spa services. And tell us a little bit about how Simplast helps facilitate that.
Yeah, absolutely. And any success, especially the younger doctors that are coming into the industry, plastic surgeons, for example, that they must add the non-surgical services, because they might be an entry point for the surgical cases, right? Something that they start with some fillers or some other type of services. It could be lasers, many different things, where then it will lead, once they have that confidence and they build that confidence themselves, the patients, but also the confidence in the physician, then they're going to upsell them into additional opportunities within the surgical
Sure.
realm. But the opposite also applies, and especially now with even weight loss, right? You can buy weight loss from, I think, even Costco and Hims and Hers and Row and all those. You can buy weight loss treatments from many different places, but they are not connected to the overall beautification plan that a patient may
Sure.
have. And it's only one component. So when you don't have them connected to the end result, then 1+1 may only be 1.5 instead of 2 or
Sure.
3. And when you are under the care of a medical aesthetic provider, they can use those programs as part of an overall change in looks and even better health from a preventive point of view. We are seeing a lot of wellness, like hormone replacement treatment therapy, plus, as I mentioned, the weight loss, all those different verticals coming under aesthetics
Sure.
now. And I'm loving the way that is working out, because we have a client, and he speaks around the country on this. And about 5 years ago, he joined Simplast, Dr. Franco, Johnny Franco, and he started weight loss about a year and a half ago, or maybe 2 years by now. And it was an incredible journey how fast he
Sure.
grew. And he knew how to use that weight loss client in order to then sell them into med spa services and even surgical services very quickly. and he at this point he's kind of like the grandfather of weight loss used within aesthetics, and he did grow his med spa. Like, this data is a little old at this point, but in the first 15 months he grew 500% his med spa services. And again, it applies, you can think of it up, right? From wellness, from weight loss up to medical spa. It same way applies from surgical down to medical spa services. And the main thing is not that you're going to be thrilled to do Botox or fillers or whatnot as a surgeon, but it's about maintaining that relationship. Sure. Maintaining that client for the lifetime of their beauty journey.
Oh, just to backtrack a little bit, if any of our listeners are listening to the podcast and you happen to be listening to the podcast on the Elm Atelier website, click over to read the article that we have on the site about Dr. Johnny Franco, because it goes over that entire weight loss journey and how he built his practice. Started with his own personal journey. So, side note, I just wanted to share that. But yeah, this is all fascinating. I think that even some of the doctors or surgeons that we work with are having trouble piecing all that together, right? Like how, hypothetically, GLP-1s might be a thing, and then it might lead to you could have somebody come in for a procedure and their BMI is too high, so you help them get to the GLP-1s, then you get to them to where they have the surgery or whatever. Or they lose enough weight and maybe there's some lasers that might help solve some of the skin tightening issues and things like that. So I think everybody's learning to sort of go through that space. And so I think it's fascinating that we're getting to talk about that. I think there's actually an Elm episode in there where we might be able to find some people to talk to us about how they're segueing that. I think maybe Franco or maybe even Dr. Kaplan would be someone to talk to about that. But I'm going to jump to the next question. You have a background in tech, strategy, and partnerships. How have these experiences shaped your vision for what the aesthetic industry practices truly need in today's competitive environment?
Oh, interesting. So, well, my background in technology really helped me with how to scale systems, right? So I all my life designed system for even moving into here to the States 27 years ago. I had the privilege to work for very large companies like American Express, Ryder Systems, PAR Technologies, companies that are very large and they're serving a mission in many different industries. But at the end of the day, it was all about scalability of systems. So that was one thing that I was able to apply at Simplast very quickly, from not only purely the technology point of view, but how systems work together in order to deliver the user's goals. And then on the partnership side, it has been like in my DNA for my whole professional career of 30 plus years. Yeah, I'm that old. Definitely need a little help from my clients. But what it taught me is how to scale trust, because partnerships is all about trust. And then again, I was able to apply that into the DNA of Simplast for creating the trust between us and our clients, and helping via the systems that we design to create trust between the patients and the clients. So again, that's why I go back to our system is designed not to be to get in the middle between the patient and the practice or the physician, but instead to get on the side and let them develop that relationship. And give me 1 second. I lost my train of thought.
It's all right. We got time.
Okay, so. And then from when you think of a modern aesthetic practice, they're not just competing on services. They're competing on an experience. They tend to be boutique type of practices that deliver an experience, and the services are part of the experience rather than the other way around. Therefore, the patients are expecting seamless digital first journeys. And the owner, they need to have the visibility into the performance and ROI of the practice. And finally, the staff, they expect that the tools are intuitive. And this whole ecosystem keeps getting younger and younger instead of the opposite. So what that means is that little term of digital first journey becomes more and more important by the day by day, because the patients are getting younger. They're starting early in their aesthetic journey, and of course the providers more and more are so smartphone friendly, let's call it, where they expect that everything can be done from their phone. And so my whole background on technology, on that strategy of digital strategy for large companies on how to address their clients and interact with their clients, and then partnerships, all that put together, it basically helped me accelerate that creation of an intelligent infrastructure, where it's not just records, but there's a lot of automation, insights, and tools that help the practice grow. And at the end of the day, we serve practices that are very focused, they're nimble, and yet they're ambitious. So for us to create that partnership level with our clients, it just made a really good match of technology and service provider with the clientele that we are looking for.
I appreciate that. A very thorough answer. I want to backtrack just a little bit. In your previous answer, you said taught you to scale trust. You also said competing on experience. I think those two things are somewhat related. And can you say a little bit more about that and how it applies to the aesthetic space?
Yeah, for sure. Very early on, we identified that this is not a niche market. I mean, yes, from a marketing point of view, you're looking at it and it's a very niche market. But we identified that this is a community. It's a community that, or a niche market that behaves as a community. That means that there are key opinion leaders, that their voices echoes a lot within the community. And that also they are leaders, they're key opinion leaders for a good reason. They're leaders of the industry. They might be leaders from a medical point of view. That you might have some other ones that are leaders from a business and how to scale and how to make the most out of get the most out of a practice, and some other ones that are just cutting edge when it comes to the marketing side, that they have been really good at creating a persona, an online persona that attracts patients. So we ensure that very early on, we ensure that we get inserted in the community by gaining the trust of many of those leaders. Again, in many different areas of leadership within this industry, and therefore we needed to gain their trust. And one of the ways that I know how to gain trust is by applying the values that we actually hold at Simplest. And that is integrity at the very top, and then accountability, because sometimes you may fail at something, right? You might take a misstep, and holding yourself accountable, it's key. And then determination. So those three are personally my core values for life, but in business, they have served me well. Mm-hmm. And what we have done with that is that then, even though for us it's a value partnership, it's actually an outcome. Mm-hmm. It's an outcome from those first three. If you have integrity, you do the right thing no matter who's watching, you are accountable to yourself, and then you are determined to be delivering on those first two values, partnership it just becomes automatically. And again, all that is rooted on trust. So that's how we grew Simplest, and we made it scalable. Why? Because we made that the culture of Simplest, not what Facundo does, but the
Sure.
culture of Simplest.
It's interesting that the very first thing you said, I talked to you about scaling trust, and you said values, which I recently wrote an article called "Value versus Trust." When I'm gonna send that to you after this, after we're done recording today. I think it's interesting, but I do
Absolutely.
think, in my personal opinion, as I try to establish trust, I think relationships start based on trust. I know you, or you know my friend, or someone told me that I should trust you. I like you. I trust you. Let's work together. If you don't provide value on the other side of that, that relationship's pretty short lived. So
Of
I
course.
like, from a firm media perspective, we can design a beautiful website, but if it doesn't put patients in the chair, eventually it's there's no value to that beautiful website. So yeah, I appreciate that answer.
Absolutely. And we with that in mind, we focused a lot on social proof, right? To use all the hard work that we have put in all these
Mm-hmm.
relationships, and get people to tell our story, not
Sure.
us, because that's when it becomes very credible. And again, we are in a small community where then news travel fast one way or the other, and as we know, bad news travel even faster. So we have put a lot of effort on creating those relationships based on trust, and then we deliver value day in and day out. It's so fun to go to conferences for me, because I get to talk to a lot of clients. I also do every year or every other year, I do a big road tour where I go and visit. I normally put the goal anywhere between 30 and 40
Yeah.
accounts in a couple months throughout the year, and that has given me a lot of visibility into what is important for them and how we can better deliver value to them.
Understood.
But the main point on that is that to truly deliver that value is to continue to adjust to market
Mm-hmm.
needs. And the market needs are driven some by the market, meaning the patients, and some by the practices themselves. What is it that they need to focus on next? And we also did great at that, where I meet a client that they have been with us for a year, and they go like, oh wow, you guys made a lot of improvements in the platform. I met a client, I actually just posted online from a recent show, a client that was client number 5
Wow.
8 years ago, and he just wanted to share that the main thing why he continues to be a Simplest client is because we continue to innovate and deliver more and more value for basically the same cost that they've been paying all along, because these are tools. It's software as a service. You're not buying the software, you're listening it. If I don't make it better every year, then chances are that you're going to find some other shiny object and you're going to run towards
Sure.
it.
Sure. I appreciate those answers. Final question. How do you see the future of patient engagement and practice operations evolving, especially with the rise of mobile, AI, and integrated platforms?
That's awesome. It is definitely encapsulating my passion, and the future pretty much is here. When we talk about um, mobility, right? Like mobile access to information and communications. I think that one of the things that we have seen taking off is the async or asynchronous communications. I mean, a little technical term, but basically is giving the patients the ability to reach the practice and interact with the practice, regardless if it is staff or just practice tools, at any point, at any time, anytime, anywhere. And that can be secure texting. It could be video assessments that we have. Of course, the check-ins for post-op or post treatment, because it could be simply somebody after an injectable that they're seeing some marks in their faces, and they just want to reach to their provider. So that asynchronous communication, I think that is what a lot of people were thinking on telehealth, and that being being able to talk via video with patients, but in our opinion, it's more about that whole communication that happens with the patient in a very mobile and technology friendly approach. Then when it comes to AI, amazing progress has been made in this area in the last 2 years. We all seen it everywhere, and that is also pretty much here. I think of AI in like 4 different buckets. We have the conversational AI that is like the chatbot and even voice, right? You can actually talk to machine today, and it sounds so realistic. And the point of introducing conversational AI is not necessarily to replace people, but it's to augment people, to let the AI chatbots to answer high level questions or just very transactional things like directions or even appointment availability, because they might be reaching out to the practice or doing research and education outside the office hours. So why not let a chatbot or a voice AI pick up that conversation and deliver the information and achieving the goals that the patient has. But so that's the conversational side. Then we have the AI that is more around transcription and summarization, all dealing with text and voice to text. We have implemented AI note taking that is fantastic for doctors to just put a recording device like an iPhone on the side, have a conversation with the patient without technology in between them, and then AI is just creating a summary of that conversation, and that can be formatted as a consultation, as a post-op, follow-up, or even as a soap note.
Sure.
The other area of AI that is very exciting is the insights, right? Surfacing insights normally from the practice or revenue trends. And we call it talk to your data. How can I use natural language to say, hey, what's my average ticket for non-surgical procedures? So now you understand where you are compared to the rest of the market, and what are the things that you should be focusing on, and things that maybe you shouldn't be focusing on. You can think of what is my, mommy makeover average pricing, or what is the most typical upsell for mommy makeovers procedures. So then you might realize that weight loss after 3 or 6 months after mommy makeover, it might be a good upsell, just to ensure that the patient protects their investment on the original surgical case. And so that is all about insights. And then the last one that I think about is agents. And that one, it sounds a little more futuristic, but it's pretty much here. And it's developing agents that can do some tasks from your employees, from your staff, and even from yourself as the practice owner. You could automate some of those tedious tasks and repetitive tasks that add a lot less value, and again, give you time to focus on what matters most, that is patient safety and patient outcomes. And then when you talk about, what was the last one? Integrated platform?
Integrated platforms. This is something you and I have been talking about a lot recently.
Yeah.
Just sort of the openness of being able to work with other agencies and other forms of technology to make the practice just to be able to access their data better.
Exactly. So that last point is very important. It's data, right? Being able to correlate all the data of during the patient journey, from the time that they are interested on a service all the way until post procedure. It is important to have the data in only one place. So that's extremely important for the practice, but also for the patient. From a patient experience, it's good when, for example, with one app, they can interact with the practice. They can make a deposit or pay their bills, or create another follow-up appointment, or to come back for Botox 3 months later, or even look at their pictures and everything. So centralized data is critical to deliver a unified patient experience, but also a in-depth analysis of the overall business. But what is important at that point, and even though Simplest has a pretty well rounded patient experience platform, there are companies out there that either they deliver great service, like it could be a marketing company, to delivering a great piece of software that is very specialized, like Entity Med, that they do AI simulations, and so on and so forth. Different companies that they focus on services or products that would be important to be very tied to the overall patient experience, and that is one of the things that we focus on. We partner with companies like that, and we integrate via our very open API, robust API ecosystem that we have built, in order to get great practice insights for the practice and amazing workflows and patient experience for their clients.
Thank you. That was such a good answer. This is the time in the show where I ask you for one final question, your ALM essential insight. What is one key takeaway that you would leave our practices with so that they could finish listening to this podcast, take this piece of information, this valuable insight or piece of advice back to their practice to kind of make what they're working on a little bit easier for them?
One of the things that I have visited, I had the pleasure and privilege to visit over 100 practices in the last few years, because I'm a very hands-on CEO and very product-centric. So I love to have those conversations. And one piece of advice is don't settle, and don't allow the complexity of a business and your business, your aesthetic business, to steal your joy of working with patients to deliver amazing patient care, and of course, while ensuring patient safety. And how do I think of that is you actually got into aesthetics to transform people's lives. So when you pick your tools, just like if you're a surgeon, you're extremely picky about what scalpel you're going to use. It should be applied the same way for the rest of your business. So don't let your software run your business or decide what the business should be, but instead ensure that the software was built purposely to satisfy the needs of the patients of today, which is also not the same as the patients of 15 years ago. So focus on streamlining what is important by reducing friction with patients, both in the from the appointment setting all the way to how they pay their bills or they make the deposits, of automating if you have treatment plans, automating the payments of those treatment plans, and so on and so forth. So just focus on what matters most, that is your patients, your craft, and all that is going to lead to the growth of your business.
Such a good answer. I can't tell you how much that's coming up, that piece of that piece of knowledge for a lot of the practices that we work with, that bit of understanding, so often people are running into the fact that they need to streamline that area. So I didn't realize that we would be talking about that today, and I'm so glad that we did. I also can't tell you how much of a pleasure it was to get to know you a little bit more. And thank you so much for being on the show. I look forward to seeing you at meetings in the future.
My pleasure. Thank you, Chris.
Please give us a like and subscribe to stay up to date with the Elm Practice Education Series.